Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Kim with Kim's Inspired Life, and welcome to hashtag Thursday BookTube. Sometimes I get that mixed up and I call it BookTube Thursday and all kinds of stuff, but it's pretty sure it's hashtag Thursday BookTube, an open collab hosted by our two sweet friends, Patty at Life with Patty and Daphne at My Mountain Home and Kitchen. And so if you watched this week, Patty shared some books that she's been reading. She always has a good mixture of books that she's reading, books that she has purchased, books that have been given to her. And this week, Daphne is actually organizing her cookbooks and books in her home. So that's interesting as well. Lots of people have been joining in on Thursday BookTube, so you can hear lots of great book recommendations, hear what people are reading, and maybe get some ideas for your TBR list. So I'm going to share a couple of books, two books that I have finished, one audiobook, and of course one Ann Patchett book, of course. And then share with you what my next read is. So, and I've already started that. So let me start with, what should I start with? Let me just start with Ann Patchett. So I finished The Patron Saint of Liars. If you've been on my channel, you've been hearing me on Thursday BookTube, you know that I'm reading through Ann Patchett's book, and I just love her writing style. It matches what I like to read, and she is from California. She's Catholic. We have a lot of things in common. Her books have notes of that, and you can hear that, and you can. I like her voice in her her writing, and I don't think I've mentioned this before, but there are some little things that about picking up a book and reading that you just have to enjoy. And so this book, if you can see the edges of this book, they're just not finished, cut, perfect edging. They're almost just kind of like torn pages. Do you know what I mean? And so if you can see that, and I love that. And her books are just have that feel to them. So, all right. So The Patron Saint of Liars, highly recommend. This was her debut novel, actually. In 1992, Ann Patchett published this book. And let me see, I have some notes here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So basically the main character, it starts off in chapter 1 with Rose. And Ann Patchett writes family stories. She writes stories about relationships and really describes characters so wonderfully. And so the main character in this book is Rose. And Rose is married to a gentleman, Thomas, that she's not that really intrigued about. Actually, at the beginning of the story, it starts off with, Thomas comes to her and tells her that, he's been kind of stalking her almost. He doesn't use the word, but that's basically what it is. That's what I think it is. And it sounds like they end up getting married. She ends up getting pregnant. She doesn't want to be pregnant with him in that marriage. So she just writes him a note one day, takes the car, and leaves. She actually learns how to drive in anticipation of her taking the car and leaving at some point. And so she doesn't know where she's going. And she just starts driving from California, driving east, and she ends up a couple of stops along the way, but she ends up in Kentucky, and she ends up at a home. It's used to be, there's a history behind the home, which is really interesting, but that's not the part where I guess the story kind of flourishes. It's more that now the house, after the history's gone, the house has now become a home for unwed mothers run by the Catholic Church. Mother Corinne, she runs the home, as well as some other people there. Some other sisters, Sister Evangeline being one of them, who works in the kitchen. And that's where Rose really takes to, that's where she spends her time, her days. She meets the maintenance man that is there, who is about 10 or 15 years older than her. And basically one day he says to her, I really like you, maybe one day you could see us, having a relationship. And she's like, let's get married. She wants to get married before the baby's born. So he raises the daughter just like she's his own. Her name is Celine. There's a whole story behind how they named her Celine. And So basically, so the story goes on, you know, the day-to-day workings of what they're doing there, the girls that come and go, the relationships that they build with them and lose, and the relationship between, you know, Sun, his name is Sun, well, that's not his real name, but that's what they call him, the maintenance man, that Rosemary is a relationship between there, the mother-daughter relationship. When you read the reviews of the book, it really does talk a lot about the mother-daughter relationship, but that is part of the book, but I find there's more to say within her, you know, her husband, and then eventually what happens with her ex-husband, and then at the last chapter, as in Ann Patchett style, the last chapter, you think you know where the book's going, and then all of a sudden, boom. So that's all I'm going to tell you, because I think that you will like it. I think that you will like her style. I think that you will like the story of the relationships, if those are the kinds of books that you like. I'm reading another Ann Patchett book next. I'm reading this one, Secret Harvest, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. But let me talk about the audiobook that I finished. I'm not recommending it, but I am going to talk about it, and then you can decide whether or not it's a book that you would want to read. So I haven't done this video yet, but I'm going to be doing a video, and I have lots of notes about. I've been off Facebook and I've been off Instagram since probably about October. Of course, I still have my YouTube channel, and I am on Threads somewhat. I was just wasting way too much time, and I'm going to talk about that in another video, but too much time online, too much time, you know, trying to keep up with Instagram, with photos, and on there too much. And so now that I have more time, I've had more time to listen to audiobooks and to read and to do a plethora of other things. Okay, so I have some notes here about Yellowface. So Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and her name is Rebecca. Rebecca is an American writer. She's of Chinese descent. The book is 336 pages if you read it. The audiobook is 8 hours and 39 minutes. So shorter than the last audiobook that I had listened to. This book was published in 2023, and you may have heard me talk about this book before, mention it anyway, that it was on my TBR list. It is a book of fiction, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book, and then I'll tell you why I don't recommend it. So within the first like 3 chapters, you think is going to be the main character, and actually she is the overall kind of arching like person behind the book. Her name is Athena, and she's an author, and she has this good friend who really is not like her best friend, but a good friend, and her name is June. Well, Athena dies, and she's already this famous author. June is kind of like wanting to be her and wanting to live her life, you know, kind of thing. And so June basically steals her a manuscript for her next book, and she decides to publish it on her own. The problem is that Athena is Asian and June is not, and so people start to question, well, you know, why did you write this book? And, you know, she says to honor my friend, and, you know, we talked about it, and she wanted me to do this. There's a lot of messages within this book about prejudice, about bias, about writers and their struggles and what they go through, and you know, just being Asian in the book industry. And the thing with this book, you're humming along, reading the book, and, you know, in this case, listening to it, and then last chapter is like boom. It's kind of like, oops, sorry about that. Had to change spots because I need to charge my camera. Okay. So I really wasn't sure where the book was headed, because it seemed to me about 3 chapters before the end that the book kind of like, that was the end. It was done. They've said what the author said, what she needed to say, and then you come to find out that last chapter, it's kind of like, oh, this is what she wanted us to know. This is what she wanted to end, how she wanted to end the story. Okay, so why I'm not recommending this book. 1, the author is young. So this is only, I want to say, the 3rd novel or so that the author has written. She's in her early 30s, okay? And when she first started writing, she was in college. I think she published her first book when she was 19. And it was like science fiction. And so this is her first work of fiction for her first novel, and it's getting, you know, a lot of attention. A lot of people are talking about it. I think more because of the whole maybe cultural diversity kind of issue, the bias, the, you know, the I am, you know, woman kind of power movement, something. However, this book, again, is written by a younger person, so a lot of the ideas that millennials have about life and a lot of their environment is interwoven into the book. So there are a couple things I had to look up. I mean, she was referring to something, I knew it had something to do with technology, but you know, I'm 61, so that I wasn't sure what that meant. That was a new term for me. So there were some things like that, and then there's a lot of profanity, F-bombs all over the place, and when you're listening to that audiobook, I mean, it's just even more, you know, it's just even stronger, and it just hits wrong. So a lot of profanity, and I just feel like the overall tone of the book was negative. I mean, and maybe also they chose the person to read this book, this audiobook, because it matched maybe the tone that they wanted for the book. But I don't know. I don't know if I would have read the words on my own, if I would have come away with that same tone, but I think so, because there's just, you know, a lot of, you know, when you read Ann Patchett, it's full of joy and hope, and even though there's, you know, some stories that are, that you might think are kind of tricky to read, and, you know, relationships, and maybe somebody says something that's negative, you know, there's always, you know, something that is uplifting about maybe the next chapter or the next page. In this book, I was glad that it was a shorter book, because I was just like, you know, I wanted to finish it. I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't have known about what happened, you know, that last chapter, which is a surprise, but it's not like, oh, you know, yay, we found out, you know, something about the author, or we found out something about the main character. It was just okay. But I wanted to see what all the hype was, but I can't in good faith recommend this book to anybody because of all the profanity, because of the negative tone of the book. Her writing is okay. I mean, I don't know if she's already won some awards or been recognized for this book. I think she has, because like I said, it's being talked about by a lot of booktubers, and a lot of people are doing videos about it. So anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about Yellowface, but now you know, so you can make a decision about whether or not that's a book that you want to read. So the book that I started is this book called Secret Harvests. It's a hidden story of separation and the resilience of a family farm. So this is written by David Masamoto, and if you heard Patty at Life with Patty talk about a book that she read called Epitaph of a Peach, written by David Masamoto. He lives in the valley where I live here, and he's a farmer, and so Patty has that connection with farming as well. So he's well known in our area here where I live, and I just happen to have a good friend that is friends with his wife. And so for my birthday, she asked him to sign 2 books for me, this one and another one that's downstairs, and they're family stories, and my friend Paulette knows that I love stories that are family stories, and this is a local author, and so he actually signed this copy for me, so I'm excited. It says, Kim, celebrating family stories that we carry close. And then he signed it right here, and he has a little stamp that he puts when he signs books as well. Put my glasses back on. I'm only on page 33, but basically this is a story about an aunt that his dad's sister was born with a disability. I believe that she had maybe some mental disabilities and was put into, at that time, like an asylum type thing. You know, parents didn't, you know, want to talk about it being, and so they're a Japanese family, and so they didn't want to talk about that, and so he didn't know about her and didn't have a relationship with her until he got older, and he started doing research, and he went to go find her. So that's what I understand. That's not where I am in the book, but that's what I understand the story is. So Anyway, and the illustrator also, she's a local Fresno artist as well. So I'm looking forward to reading this book. I'm really excited that my friends know they love to read and they give me books to read. So, and this is a beautiful hardcover book, and the other one is as well. So reading Secret Harvest right now, finished an audiobook. I'm going to be starting another audiobook. I just haven't decided which one yet. It won't be an audio Ann Patchett book because I love to hold her books and read her words and read them over again. Some sentences I have to read 2 or 3 times, and so because I just want to absorb them. So it won't be an Ann Patchett book. It may be a book on one of my TBR lists. I'm going to be going to the library today. Maybe I'll find something on the used bookshelf. So we'll see. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you to our hostesses, Patty and Daphne, and I hope that you are finding great books to add to your TBR list. I'll talk to you again soon.